Okay, we're back. Looking
All
to
right.
see if Mike worked.
Am I here?
Waiting for it to show up.
Do I
Looks like you're
exist?
here. All right. If you're back, welcome
Yeah.
back. Looks like it's working. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the pairing of Ricardo, Alonso, Hamilton. 5, 6, 7. What do you think?
So Lewis was extremely fast in FP3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was like half a tenth up on the field, and then it looked like George. I think he had some learnings from Lewis's setup, and that could be the reason why George is on pole. It's like he made those adjustments. I kind of think that we knew going into this track that the Merc. So George had the front wing upgrade in Monaco. Monaco's a very difficult track to gauge the success of a development piece on the car at. And he was reasonably competitive. And then now they're coming to Montreal, which has a very narrow sort of corner spread. It's mostly slow corners. And we know that the Merc in general over the course of the year has been better on tracks where it's got like one predominant corner type,
Right.
right? So they can set the car up that way. Like I kind of what I'm getting at is I think the Merc is for real. I don't think that this is an aberration through usually we see them regress through the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the only times where they've actually got to qualifying, and George had a great lap, obviously, and Lewis seemed to just kind of lose it a little bit, but the pace in the car seems to be there. So I guess what I'm saying is, out of that group, you were trying to fade Lewis, and I'm like, I don't know if I see that necessarily being the right play.
Okay. I mean, that is what I wanted to pick your brain on. He starts seventh.
Yeah.
Does he get Fernando Alonso and Ricardo? Probably. The V carb looked quick. They topped a couple of sessions. They were great in
Yeah.
qualifying. When I look back to the Miami sprint, which again, Miami potentially is it's a track that's somewhat similar to Canada.
Yep.
Ricardo was P4 in the sprint. Now he had a terrible race day. But is this a similar situation where the V carb might just stay up there?
It's pretty good on straight line speed. Like those are you think about the overtaking opportunities here. I mean, he might have the ability to keep it. I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a really tough one. I can't see. So if it's a two stopper, I guess this depends on if it stays dry and things don't get crazy. But there's probably going to be a safety car based on
Well,
sort of
even
the past few races here.
even on a dry day with no weather, Ruth was saying that this track is right on the limit always of if is it a one stop or a two stop. You kind of have.
Yeah,
I love having Ruth in the booth. By the way, I know you haven't consumed very much. Listening to her talk about
yeah.
strategy, she made a comment. Sorry to go off track. She made a comment that
No,
in
no. Let's hear it.
Canada, so she loves that there's animals here. It's the most influenced race by animals historically. There's been 4 race wins that were influenced by an animal. Um, she has a
What a
map
hilarious
that
stat.
if a gopher shows up on a certain turn, she knows, oh, marshals can't get to it. Way more likely if it's on turn whatever 9, that's going to be a VSC compared to if it comes out at turn 2. Not a big issue. We don't have to change our strategies around. Like the level of detail that they go into strategically
What?
planning what can happen on a race. I love having her in the booth. Anyways, little detour.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's hopefully that comes into play. I like that.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree. Like I wrote down just because it was interesting that there's a V carb and Lewis is out of the 6. Let's go further to the top. Now Max and George set the exact same time,
Yeah.
right? George said it first. Now George said it in a part of Q3 where times were improving. George went to the top of the charts, and then no one was able to improve in that set. I guess Max was the only one that improved on his own time. Lando didn't, Oscar didn't, Lewis didn't,
Right.
George didn't. So he time it well and just he nailed the lap when the grip was there. Um, I don't think
And so
he's
George,
not faster than Max. He just did it first and
no,
maybe
and he
did
got
it
a
at a
toe.
better
I
part
think
of
he got like a
better
little. It
time.
looked like he got a little toe from Albon too, right?
And he got the toe from
So
Albon.
maybe, yeah. So you think about it, even if his, I think I was reading like maybe it was worth like a tenth or 2/10, and like it's so tight up at the top that if he doesn't get that toe, even though the Mercedes looks like it looks like a legitimately competitive car, if he doesn't get that toe, then he's closer to Lewis. I guess is my point. Like I
He
think
might be.
Norris might be in between all of a sudden he loses, maybe he's P3 if he doesn't get that toe.
So
So
this is exactly where I'm going. Do you think
yeah,
George win this race?
no, I
Sorry,
think he'll
will he
lose
win this
Max.
race? Maybe he can. This is going to be
Yeah.
a great
What is
indicator
Max?
to, is this Mercedes real? Because you said it. He got all the upgrades in Monaco. You can't really tell if it's working in Monaco.
No, no. And they again, obviously, like over the course of the last few sessions, they're proving that the car is competitive. They're not firmly like the fourth fastest car. It looks like they're in the mix for at least top six finishes in this race.
Hmm.
But no, like, is he gonna probably hold on and beat Max? I don't see that
Okay, so
happening.
you said Max.
Yeah.
Does Lando win this race over Max? For some reason, I'll put my cards on the table. I feel very confident if Lando outqualified Max, that maybe the
Yeah.
McLaren's got paid. When he's not outqualifying Max, I don't know. I don't feel like the McLaren has a pace delta over the Red Bull.
No, I don't know why we would assume that either. I mean, again, this is still a track that typically the McLaren, you would think because of the slow corner issues that the car has had inherently. Not, I know a lot of that seems to have been resolved with the upgrade that they brought to the Miami GP, but it's still fundamentally like baked into this concept, it seems. And you're right. Like, I can't. It would be very difficult for me to pick Norris over Max starting behind him.
So
I,
so
so minus 138, I saw
Max
for,
enhanced win
yeah, enhanced.
minus
Yeah,
138.
I mean,
2 years we haven't seen anything close to this line from Max winning a Grand Prix where he set the qualifying pole time. Zero zero zero
no,
zero zero. The delta between them. And we
yeah,
get it at minus
and
138.
he got a new. They put a new. Was it any ERS system? I think
So
they changed out the
that
battery.
was a
Like they
little
put
scary. Like in FP2, it was to the point where everyone had to clear the garage. Like, okay, electrical
Yeah.
issue with the car. There was smoke. The broadcast was all over it. They had the wall of Red Bull mechanics blocking the view. But from all accounts, they seem to have fixed it. Max was still complaining about downshifting during qualifying, but then at the end of the day, he goes and puts it on the pole time. He just did it
He
second.
complains about downshifting every qualifying
Right,
session. He complains about downshifting. So it
right.
doesn't even matter, right? Okay. So
So that's interesting.
yeah,
There's
is there anything that concerns you from this whole? We spent essentially 2 weeks with everybody picking apart the Red Bull's ability to ride curbs and it losing its downforce because the Venturi tunnels, the seal is broken and all this concern over it. Do you think that realistically is a problem here at Canada, or is he just gonna win? I think I'm more leaning towards that's overblown,
I think it's
and we're
overblown.
getting a favorable line, and we probably need to look to try to exploit him starting P2.
If I were to guess, that messaging, that story about Red Bull on the curbs probably starts in Miami, where he went over a curve but hit a bollard that took
Right.
damage on his car. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is either Max or Lando probably. And if the Mercedes holds and shows race pace over the McLaren, then we take that as great learning, and maybe the Mercedes is for real. I think that was a lot more to do with when George did that lap and the conditions on the track. I'm pretty sure both McLarens were in the pits waiting. They didn't do a second out of 3 run. They just kind of did one and then waited to do their final one.
Right.
There's a lot more value you could get on Max. If we like Max to win this race, we could look
Yeah.
at him to lead certain laps, and then you start getting plus money.
Yeah. I was looking at to lead a lap and win the race
Yeah.
and it's I think the 10th lap. To lead after lap 10 and win the race is minus 105. It's essentially even money.
Okay, it was
And I
plus
look at that and I
105
actually
30 minutes ago when I
okay,
wrote
there
it
you
down.
go. I look well, you know what? I look at that and I think you might as well take that enhanced win line, right? Like, why? If George does a great job of defending, if he gets off the line, gets in front of him, if George defends well, like, is it really worth those points?
The one that I would look at,
I
like,
don't think so.
okay, you're right. Lead lap 1, that's a turn 1 bet. I don't love losing a bet on turn 1. Like that's kind of a
No.
sour way to start a race. Lap 5 is very doable. DRS is in play. It's well before any pit stops
Yeah,
because he
you
gets
know
3
what?
laps of DRS there.
I'm not feeling. I don't think that the advantage is that great at
Okay.
this point. Maybe I'm wrong. I still think that there's the Red Bull has an advantage for sure. I don't love the fact that again it's going to be the track is going to be green.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be damp. It's going to be cold, and they're gonna have a tough time getting the tires turned on. We know that that's an issue that the Red Bull has, and it's usually, I mean, if there ends up being some sort of like graining issue or a tire wear issue, then they're going to be able to take advantage over the field from that perspective. But the starting temperatures are going to be a problem for them. So I just like the idea of them picking him to win versus trying to factor in does he get ahead of George after lap 10 or lap 5 or something like that. I
Yeah.
just don't think that there's enough value on it.
When I
Minus
tell
138, I think is a pretty good line.
when I tell people what we do, everyone goes, "Oh, so you like bet the race winner." And for 2 years I've said, "Well, you would have to bet on Max, and there's never value there." This is the value that you look for a Max Verstappen. And it's a number of factors. He didn't win in Monaco. He struggled in Miami. He had an electrical issue this weekend. He's not on pole position, quote unquote, because he set the time still. All of that is giving us extra value. So I think I want to start this. Yeah.
Yep. No, I'm completely into that.
Okay. We might not want to double up on a Max winning, but who finishes P2? Do you like a Max and Lando duel or a Max and George duel? Or the fact that I'm asking that it's a 50-50 and we don't want to touch it?
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, so what do you? We think that Max is going to win, which I think is a completely fair position to be in.
Uh-huh.
Do you see How do you see the rest of the podium shaking out? Do you have any indications as to what that might look like? What do they think?
What I went
Can
to
you
it
look
for
at
was
the
Max and
forecast?
Lando.
Look at the forecast. Can you look at the forecast?
This is dual forecast. Max and Lando
Yeah, but
are slightly.
look at the. Let's see what
You
the
want
odds
the
makers think
TriCast?
the pod. Yeah, what do they think the podium's going to be?
It's the chalk 3, and then Oscar is the next one.
It's just those three. Okay,
Combination in any order. It's those 3,
162.
and then Oscar would be the next one.
So I had, when we were having our technical issues, I had where's podium? Podium finish. A Piastri no at minus 163. Right, so that's
Okay.
a nod. So that's assuming that there's nobody comes out ahead of him, and it's a bit of a nod to George ultimately in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Do they end up in a battle? Like if George is dropping back and Lando and Max start to, if the odds makers are correct, it's going to be Max and Lando. Can George hold off Oscar to get that final spot on the podium? I think it's possible. Again, this could be a trickier race from a tire management perspective. Again, it's not an abrasive track. Your tires aren't going to wear, but there's potential for graining. That
Mm-hmm.
might be a factor ultimately in the end. And you have to make a decision between, can you do a 2-stopper? Can you do a 1-stopper? Mercedes George might be able to, we've seen him do it, really run a really aggressive strategy and make out with a 1-stopper and hold this track position.
Maybe. You know what that made me
Maybe.
think when you were saying that, though?
What?
We know Oscar's biggest detriment is tire management. If this is a 2-stopper, or if there's weather that comes in the race that means now you're on a set of inters, well, all of a sudden, Oscar doesn't need to manage a set of mediums for 30 laps where he starts losing them. He might get a second or a third chance at new boots.
Yeah, that's a fair point, too.
But I did have the same line of thinking as you. Now I'm going to spin it a little bit. Does Daniel Ricciardo get Oscar? Is the V-carb fast enough to get that McLaren?
I don't think so.
Does Fernando Alonso
get Oscar?
Yeah. 6th to 4th. My gut says no, but I'm curious what you think.
No.
And then it's Lewis.
So. No. Yeah.
Is Lewis getting all the way to 4th?
There seems to be the most potential there, weirdly, right? Only because of how quick we've seen the Mercedes be over the last couple of sessions. I mean,
well, where I'm leading you with this is Oscar exact P4 finish instead of saying not on the podium.
Okay, interesting.
Finishing
I guess
position. I felt like he was, when I looked at this grid with the Ferraris out of the way, Checo out of the way. It's like, is this remember when we had Lando was always going to be P7 that year in Austria a couple years ago? Yeah. It's like, is Oscar just always going to be P4 here? And you can get plus 400 on him. If we're thinking, hey, it's a no to the podium. Okay, well, if it's not podium, how far is he going to drop? 4th, probably.
I would, but I would rather if we feel comfortable with him not getting on the podium, which I think is realistic, then you must just pick him not to be on the podium and finish in any position outside of the top three. Not for him to finish direct exactly fourth.
You get what I'm
The reason I
saying,
say
though.
that is I get what you're saying completely. Like, do you take advantage of the situation because the faster cars are not there to really to bug him? Essentially, the faster cars are ahead of him already.
Hmm.
I don't know, man. That I still think that there's a very high potential chance for things to really get mixed up if you do get
What
partial
about
safety
this?
car, full safety car.
Instead of your 138, it's a Max and Oscar combo for a little
That's the
less
right
money. If
because
we're going to
and
be on
that
Max to
helps
win,
cover off. There you go.
right?
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Because Oscar's biggest chance, well, okay, I'll make this statement. Oscar's biggest chance of the podium is Max gets that electronic failure because McLaren's
Sure.
super reliable.
Yep.
I mean, George could crash. I was about to say the Mercedes is reliable, but George.
George could easily crash. He could slam into a wall.
But then Max wins.
So this is an intelligent bet with Max picking Max to win.
Well,
Covering yourself
this is how
off
we
to
ended
minus
last year
125.
when we were hot. We just kept going Max at a certain spot, and then whoever is least likely to be on the podium with him, we just combine those.
Yeah. I am a fan of that because I think those two bets complement each other extremely well.
And that's minus 175. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to look at race? We'll look at the race match bets.
Okay.
We haven't looked
Because
at them
that's the extent of the things that I thought were interesting. So
yet. We have. Oh, you okay? Let's look here. Let's look at the race match bet. Sorry, I was thinking race match bet teams, but like
oh
we can. We've been finding some match bets that we've been picking on the Aston Martins recently.
yeah,
I don't know if
Alonso
you've seen
starts
anything
well
here.
ahead of Stroll.
Yeah.
Stroll at plus 400.
I mean, I this is going to be a hilarious thing to say, but I see Carlos Sainz starting one position behind Leclerc, and that's plus 175. It's kind of
I
interesting.
do like Carlos.
In a race where shut up. You do like Carlos.
I do like Carlos.
In a race where things could get kind of weird again from a tire, like, are you going to go on inters? Are you switching to the slicks? Is it a one stopper? Is it a two stopper? Like, I will say that I think ultimately Sainz has an advantage over Leclerc, not on pure pace, but in some of those big brain moments.
Yeah.
Where
He's going to be thinking his own
he's
strategy.
involved in the strategy call,
Mhm.
right? And right. So
I like Carlos. I
one
like they're
position.
one spot ahead.
Yeah.
Leader starts on the left, I think. Actually, I'm not positive.
Okay.
Because I'm just
that
thinking you want to be on the right
mean
side of the
for you?
track going into that first combination of corners. You're
Okay.
on the outside technically at turn 1, but then you get the inside on turn 2, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I'm gonna do a little mark on it. Carlos.
I had a quote from Freddie that I was looking at. He was saying that Sainz was actually 3/10 faster than Charles, but made a mistake in the last corner in Q2.
They both had mistakes, but I personally
Yeah.
blame that on they were on used boots trying to get too much out of them. Because
Right.
and
I guess
Charles is not happy with the team. Like he made the calm
I
of
know.
I'll save my comments till after, and then I don't know if you saw the clip of him getting ready for his press, his PR lady, kind of handed him a phone like, here's what we want you to say, and he read it and he goes, yeah, no, I'll say what I want.
Hilarious.
So he's upset.
Yeah, he's
I don't
not.
know.
Yeah, he's upset. Hey man, if he's upset and he's going to be a little baby out there, then maybe Sainz gets by him. I kind of like that line, right? Plus 170. Again, it's just one position behind your teammate, one grid spot.
Why is it such a line?
Well, because he just won, I guess, right? I think that's
Charles.
He's just coming off a win. He's coming off a race win, right?
Yeah.
We might be able to just take advantage of just midfield. They're just mired in the midfield, and Sainz just happens to run a better strategy than him and finish a spot ahead of him. I don't know, something as simple as that.
How'd they both
He
run in
gets
Miami?
Sainz gets
Charles was ahead. Yeah, okay.
Charles was dead. I think Charles started ahead and he finished ahead.
Yeah. Starting grid.
It went like
They
again. It
started
went.
2-3. Yeah.
Could he finish ahead of? Yeah, he's starting ahead of him. Could he finish ahead of him? 100%. I'm just saying, at for plus money, do you just take a chance? It's not like I like the fact that there was potential. Science had potential to be ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I get they made mistakes in Q2, obviously, and the car just isn't good enough.
But we're not betting on the car to be good against anyone else. Just be better than your teammate.
Better than I just think again that level of uncertainty that exists with strategy, with how things shake out.
Yeah.
Probably you say advantage Carlos in those
I mean,
situations, right?
we saw the statistics in the video game. Carlos has more focus, better racecraft.
Shut up. Hey,
He's
but if you're
better
taking
overall.
the ratings in EA Sports, the new Formula One game,
Yeah.
if you're taking them as they are, Carlos is a better driver.
He's a better driver overall. Better racecraft. Okay, I jotted it down.
Oh my god.
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, if those are the three, we've got Max
I
winning,
would.
Max and
Yeah.
Charles not on the podium together, and then Carlos over Charles. Let's go to the teams. You asked for the teams originally
Yeah. Let's see.
because I didn't see any other driver matchups there.
No.
Race match bets team. I don't love the minus 250s. I'd prefer something to be in our window.
Yeah. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
ones
it's
that are
like-
in our window. I don't love because he's like Mercedes, McLaren. Ugh.
It's basically, yeah, do you want to just put more money on the Mercedes over the McLaren?
No. I do. I really do think that George can hold on to a podium spot. I could be completely wrong on that, but I think
I
there's
don't think the
something
tracks are too similar,
here.
but it does remind me of Brazil, where he just like it was a weird weather race and
Yeah, definitely different.
put it on pole, and then
Yeah.
he won, right? So
Yeah.
different tracks, but just a similar situation.
I'm torn between this. Are we missing being ahead of the curve on Mercedes to some degree with the change? Like, I mean, James Allison was talking about the wing upgrade that they brought, and he said a million different things over the last couple of weeks about thinking that they've unlocked performance and figured things out. I mean, at least you had a guy go out there and put it on pole. We know we talked about the fact that he could easily be starting P3 if he didn't get that toe.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think like there obviously is performance in the car. I kind of like where we are with Mercedes, that he just hangs on to a podium spot. He locks out Piastri, and if something happens to Max, then we have it covered off, I guess, to some degree.
Mhm.
I'm pretty comfortable with that, right?
Would you be bored? Would you rather see? The problem is I don't know if Lando could maybe get in. Like if this finishes Max Lando, then we're wrong. But this is like plus 187 for it to be Max and George. Those
No,
at the 1-2, no,
nah.
because Lando's there.
No.
Now
Yeah,
the
no, I don't.
McLaren's super draggy in the straights.
Yeah.
But they make up for it because they're one of the better teams during in that last chicane. So even though they're a little bit draggier down the straight, they can maintain more speed through that chicane going into the Wall of Champions, and then you hold it going all the way into turn 1. So they make up for it. But are they just going to get passed on the straight because they're so draggy? No one's going to pass them. They just might not be able to get past George, maybe.
I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking. You're right, ultimately, and that's where the Piastri bet I think makes a lot of sense. Is that maybe he just can't get George because they don't have the straight line speed advantage, or they don't have a straight line speed advantage.
Mm-hmm. So what would Doomsday be for if we had Max to win and then Max and Oscar no? It's like George crashes,
wins.
Max wins, Lando inherits the podium.
Yeah, Oscar inherits the podium. Yeah.
George crashes, but Lando also then beats Max from behind him.
Yeah.
And Oscar inherits a podium. It's like that's very unlikely for a Doomsday for us.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it could happen, but yeah. And then you have a bet down the order, which I like. I do like having that, and it's just one car versus another car.
I like that too. Let's look at the groups.
I don't mind where we are right now.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Let's look at the groups.
Yeah.
Group 1, I think we're heavily involved with already.
Yep.
Group 2 is interesting. This basically shakes down to Lewis getting Fernando ahead of him and then the Ferraris don't come all the way through, which I don't think they will come all the way through to the top 6. So is it a Lewis minus 125? The Aston looked quick. Like I don't know. I don't know if I want to go against the Aston right now.
No, I don't know if I want to either.
They kept topping the times every time they
yeah,
went around.
Well, they're kind of like that Ferrari of last year. It seems like where the car does get temperature into the tires. That's what we saw in FP2 with Alonso topping the charts. He was like probably the only car it seemed like out there that could get temperature into the tires, and that could play a factor, right? We kind of talked about that at the beginning of the show.
Do you like him to win this group?
Well, plus 500.
It's
I'm
hold
not
your position for plus 500. Do you think there's any
crazy?
Do you think there's any truth to this like TikTok messaging that the Mercedes just kind of ruins Lewis's car throughout the weekend? Starts great in FP1, he's great in FP3, and then he shows.
Thing I've ever heard in my life.
But it's coming from comments from him where he goes, the lap felt the same to me, like it felt good. It's just I was slower in qualifying. So, like I don't know it.
Yeah.
Where I'm going is he going to continue to go backwards throughout the weekend when we get to race?
I don't know. I mean, it's really weird that, and he was saying that he just kind of like was lacking the grip necessary to put in a really competitive Q3 time.
Mm-hmm.
And why I don't know why that would be the case. I'm not really entirely sure. I guess what I'm more comfortable with pseudo betting on George because George took those those free practice 3 learnings and then put it on pole, and I'm happy with him locking out Piastri with that pace. I don't think that there's I don't know for me, no. Like minus 125 there's still too much of a wild card here. Alonso plus 500 to hold his position is actually
that's the one I'm looking at as a flyer.
Yeah.
It's like he just holds his position. And that's why I was saying, like, is Lewis the car's not going to come. Everything that we're seeing, the car's not going to randomly just come to Lewis this afternoon. Like, if anything, it is what it is, or it's going to be worse. It seems to be the trend with Lewis. Or that brings me back to, you could just say Lewis could get Alonso, but he's 6th or worse for minus 120. Because I don't think Lewis gets up and gets Piastri. Like I think those top 4 are pretty set. And that's going to bring me back to Piastri in 4th, but we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So if Ricardo comes out, then it's down to Lewis getting one of Fernando or Daniel.
I don't like the Lewis bet.
No, okay. Don't. You actually, as I'm talking through it, we're better to just take the Fernando at 500.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's really good value for a guy to hold his position who showed that he has performance in changeable conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I like that. I like that he might be able to get a position early.
He might be able to get Dan. And he doesn't have to do this. I'm helping Stroll because Stroll's so far back. Well, he's a couple places back, but it's not going to be. I think the past couple of weeks or a couple of times we've seen Alonso just totally forfeit himself to help Stroll. Yeah, it was Monaco. He backed up the whole pack to give Lance a free pit stop, and then Lance crashed coming out of the pits. I mean, that's interesting as a flyer. If we have 3 in our window that are kind of 2 involving the top, 1 involving outside the points, and then we got this one that's kind of mid points.
They could be figuring out the upgrades that they brought to. I mean, we kind of talked about this. We used it as a reason to bet against them in Monaco, but that's a weekend. You've got the week off. You've got, difficult sessions, obviously, with the weather, but they had no issues. They were out there running and getting laps and understanding and getting all that data. I mean, it is completely possible that they're a competitive car here. Okay, I actually like this. I like the bet.
Over the course of all of the practice and the qualifying, I feel, I don't have the stats to back it up, I feel I saw Alonso go purple at the top of the times more than I saw Lewis. Like, the pace is in the Aston Martin. Little flyer, a little $50 flyer.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. Yeah.
I like plus 500.
Yeah.
How do you feel about you're sitting on Bottas in the points starting 17th? How are you feeling about that? I mean, I lost my hot pick, so whatever.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Whatever.
I'm alive, chaps. What are you talking about? You know what? He's gonna sneak it in. Don't worry. And it's
Into
kind
the
of nice to have
points?
something in our back pocket that if there is just tremendous chaos and a bunch of cars come out and Bottas inherits a few positions, maybe he does get it to the points.
So his grouping here, none of them are getting into the points.
No.
And they're just saying, hey, be the top guy,
Look,
not in the points, and we'll give you plus
I know.
1,000.
A plus 1,000. No, it's not looking
I
good.
don't think you're looking good. Yeah.
It's not looking good.
That's all right. McLaren is not on pole.
I got very ambitious with my hot pick. I was too hot.
You did. Someone's got to cool you off. Well, you're 1-1 in your last two. You're not too hot.
I'm 1-1 in my last two. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and I was
I am.
1-0 in my last one. So. No, it wasn't.
All I know is I've got like won us hundreds and hundreds of dollars this year.
Yep.
We don't need to. We don't want to start picking this apart.
Nope, we don't need to. Okay. Anything else here? Because I'm okay with these four, and I know you got to go in a little bit here.
Yeah, let me just do a quick scour again. Is there anything that we're missing?
Ricardo top 6. We talked about that. I still really like Lando P4, but we don't have to.
Not Lando, Oscar.
Oscar P4.
Yeah, but we have that. We have that bet. We have that bet. Plus, we have it wins if
Yeah.
Max
No, I know.
comes out of the race. Like it
I
just
know.
makes total sense to bet that way, right?
Yeah. That's why I said it.
I'm in full agreement with that. I'm in full agreement with it.
I looked at classified drivers because I was thinking about Mario from last week. They've got it at 2.5 drivers is basically the break even. These were actually the same odds. They were both
Usually
minus
is.
110 earlier.
Yeah.
So it's
usually-
leaned a
usually
little
is.
bit more to the under. I don't know. It's not Monaco.
People are thinking there's going to be chaos.
Well, the better bet is an animal is going to run on the track and we need a VSC.
What is that? It's going to be like
Well,
minus
it's-
400.
yeah. Over
Well, that's
1.5. Oh, you have to take
multiple.
them individually, though. That's so hard to pick. Where's just
No.
yes, no?
Virtual safety car period during the race, I think. Yeah. Minus 250.
Oh, this is to get both of them. This is weird.
Safety car and virtual safety car?
You have to get both?
I feel like that's just such a
I feel like that's so unlucky. They either do one or the
bad
other.
bet.
It's very rare that it goes VSC into a safety car.
Like, even money on that somehow is an interesting bet.
To not have them both?
Yeah. No, we're not doing that. That's
Whatever
insane.
they choose to throw out in turn one, that you're just hoping the other one doesn't come out. The
You
rest
just
of the race.
you must just buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
You know? Those props are ridiculous.
Number of race leaders? Three or more.
I was going to say, there's no way that this is going to be.
Unless we just
Goodbye.
sniped two. That whenever Max takes the lead, he doesn't give it up again. But you got to get through all the pit stops and everything to have that happen.
Nah, it's probably going to be 3 or more.
And if there's 2 pit stops, that
Yeah.
leads to another changing of the guard. Yeah. It's probably 3 or more.
It's probably 3 or more.
Okay. We have to exhaust the book.
Oh, yeah.
But you also got to go, right?
Yeah, give me 5 minutes, but
Okay. Winning
see
margin?
if we see- maybe we see
I did
something
peek
else.
at this and I didn't love it to write it down, but let's see if it's changed. This is always tough because I don't think this indicates that it's likely to be over 10 seconds. It's just you get all of the time in the world that exists beyond 10 seconds. So it has to be a shorter line, right?
Right. Yeah.
Should we, is this another case where there are teams that are close and it's going to be under 5 seconds again? I don't know. Tough to say. Because everything
Yeah,
in Monaco should have been
maybe.
under 5 seconds, and then Leclerc with 4 laps left, they're just like, "Hey, okay, hit
Here-
the gas now," and he goes and wins by 7. So
You're still a little bit butthurt about that.
I'm a little butthurt about
You were
it.
so close, man. You were so close.
It looked good all week. I wasn't even
It did
thinking about
look
my hot
great.
pick. I was just thinking about, hey,
Yeah.
that's
Would
what
have
should
been
have
nice to win
happened.
them all.
Enhanced win we looked at. I don't think I want to look at red flag. What's without Max? Yeah, so they say, I mean, they see Lando going higher.
Like it makes sense. There's a precedent of performance and success set there. Like, what has George Russell done this year, right? It makes sense that they see Lando ahead of George, and man, probably that will happen. I don't care. Like, if George, I kind of like having George get your elbows out, George. That's fine. Like, hold off Lando. I don't care.
No, we're okay because Max still wins. Like, what if both McLarens go and get George? What if this was just a qualifying, you hooked it up at the right time in the right conditions? But
That's
this ends.
What we're hoping, we're hoping that George makes Oscar's life extremely difficult,
right,
which I think is very possible.
But if he doesn't, if it's a Red Bull and two McLarens, then we just really need Max to win.
Then we really need Max to win.
Yeah.
Big time. We do. Yeah.
But we're getting a great line. -138. There's enough in that value that we should be okay, we should be able to cover ourselves when we start talking about money here.
Yeah. No, I think so.
Okay.
Well, let's start talking about money, actually.
Let's start talking about money.
Okay, so
I think these are the four. Max to win at -138. Max and Oscar not to be on the podium together at -175. Let's make sure none of this changed.
Yeah, it is -175. So let me just.
Carlos to beat Charles in a teammate matchup +175, and Alonso in Group 2, which is over Lewis. The other ones were and the Ferraris. Watch the Ferraris come through. I don't think so.
No. -175. You had an enhanced win, right?
Yeah, I get the enhanced win.
Enhanced. Yeah, where's that? Enhanced win only. -138. The craziest bet. The weirdest prop that exists.
Yeah, it's like, here's the same bet, but we'll just give you more for no extra risk. Or
slightly better, slightly shorter or slightly longer odds.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. I guess the matchup. Race match bets. Carlos Sainz.
Is it crazy to start with 100 on Fernando and see if it can work with that?
No, it's not crazy.
I really don't hate him holding a chalk position for 5-1.
Again, it's just such a good line.
Yeah.
For a guy who was at the top of the charts in FP2, and you could just take advantage of chaos, and has a car in front of him that I get that they've been closer to in terms of pace recently, but I don't know. Okay, I have that as 100 right now.
Okay.
And what? We look at 300 on everything else. Let's just see what that looks like.
So then I think, yeah.
So we want.
I'm weirdly I'm like equally confident with the Alonso and then the Max win. The Oscar, I have a little concern that George does crash and then Oscar ends up on the podium.
Huh?
And then
George
Carlos and Charles feels like
he might take him out. Yeah.
Well, he could take out Oscar. And then Carlos and Charles feels like a coin toss to me. So in terms of like putting our money down. I love the line. I love the line for like a 50-50. Hey, they start right beside each other. So I think Max needs to have the bulk.
Max does need to have the bulk. So 400 wins you 690 on Max, and like if you go through the weekend and you just end up with a $300 loss, then that's probably on the bet slip. That's probably acceptable, right?
With Max winning and everything else loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then if Max comes out, I have 300 on the combination podium. So if Max comes out of the race, then your 300 gets you 170. So you end up with 471, and then you got to hope.
Or are we looking at the other way? Should it be the other way around? That Matt.
What do you mean?
No. I think that's right. And then 200 on Carlos and Charles.
Yeah. So the Max win, even though it's not the shortest, like the shortest is the combination podium. No.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting 300 on that, 400 on Max, 200 on Carlos over.
Am I being too scared that Oscar passes, like just beats George in this race? We just haven't seen it. This is going to be the proof is in the pudding for Mercedes. Oscar's
100%,
either going to
it's
get
cute.
him, and it was all fake, and it was just a good quality lap.
Well, that's why I put it at 300 though. Do you not you want you're considering like getting rid of that bet completely?
No. We need it to protect from
Okay.
Max. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
should that be the bulk over Max winning? No, I don't think so.
No, I mean like what's okay. I get the odds are different, obviously. And there's a discrepancy there, but like
Yeah,
maybe
that's where I'm struggling with is if we're gonna have those two as a trade off.
overcomplicate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if those are gonna
maybe
trade
just
off
don't
with each other.
overcomplicate it.
Yeah, I am overcomplicating. Okay.
I'm okay with this.
Me too.
Okay,
Let's lock it in.
I can plug it in.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Canadian Grand Prix. I almost started singing the French anthem.
No,
No,
don't you dare.
I'm not going to. Won't do it.
Do You're gonna send this to you.
Okay. I will put it out.
I gotta run, buddy.
This has been F1000 for the Canadian Grand Prix. I always have to look at the calendar. Next week, no race. The week after that, it's Spain.
What? I love that.
Me too. I love the Spanish Grand Prix. F1000. We will be back.